So, are you ready?
Okay, yep.
Okay. Then I want to welcome everyone to the March 14th meeting of the Barnstable County Commissioners, and please join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you will join us in just a moment so that we can remember all those who serve this country in the armed forces and all those who have given their lives to preserve peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to speak under public comment? Is anything not related to our agenda items? I think
Reynolds.
I scare people away. Comment. Go ahead.
Ann Reynolds is supposed to be here from the commission to talk about the Russ, and she's not here yet.
Oh, well, and Dan was here.
He stopped in. Yeah, I just saw him on his way out.
Yeah, he was just on the phone, I think.
Okay. Well, okay, so what we have here is a continued discussion of the Russ and implications for the county. And I wanted to mention, I mentioned it to Dan before he left the room, that Bill Doherty had told me about what the town of Harwich has done. And they put together a strategic planning committee to deal with Open Cape. And it was composed of a number of people, I think like 20-some people who are leaders in the town, government leaders, as well as business members in the town. And they gave a report to the Board of Selectmen, I think a week or two ago, and gave a very thorough report on what they thought the town needed to do to be able to participate, if you will, in Open Cape, to be able to have the resources it needs, both technical, hard drive equipment or whatever, or soft applications, whatever it was they needed. Anyway, they came in to do that. And we also know that the EDC, the Cape Cod Economic Development Council, had an RFP that they put out to hire someone to go around to all the towns to see exactly what they have now and what they might need. So they are kind of doing that as well.
Right.
But it would seem to me that it would be very useful if we might suggest to the town managers that they might want to consider, however they plan to do it, consider setting up a planning committee within their own town now.
And utilizing that person who can help with an audit of what their capabilities are now and what they would need going forward.
Yeah, I think the RFP's out now, so we don't know who the selection will be. I think it's out now.
And they don't expect to have that finished until August.
Yeah, it's going to take a
Which
little
is
bit of
kinda
time
late.
to pull all that stuff together.
Yeah, I had mentioned to Felicia Penn, that that's kind of late because towns have already done their budgets. For the most part, they will have done them by now. And with town meetings coming up in April and May, and if they're expenditures. But then again, there are always fall town meetings. So
Right,
they
there's
could
fall.
raise and appropriate.
And it really is sort of a planning. So if they want to, they want to get it right, and utilize it correctly, it's going to take them a little bit of. So the added time. I mean, Open Cape is there now. I mean, it will be available. So I think that there's time to incorporate it.
Yeah, it's sort of.
Not with
The first thing that sort of, the earliest one on all of this is the e-permitting, e-billing thing. And we don't have enough information even now to say, well, how much either will your town need to, what will the cost impact be to your town? There should be savings from some other, so we don't even know that yet. So I think it's probably a little premature to start thinking about what the budget impacts would be, because we're just not there yet.
No, we're not at that.
So I think Chill's sort of right. It's sort of the planning aspect of things, and if we find out that there's going to be a budget impact, we'll have to deal with it when we know.
So now, but we should also be talking about planning from our end.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think we could maybe have that discussion, and we had talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and thought about how we might get our planning started so that we can actually be that
Well, I think that the whole
provider
kind of
of the
strategic
West services.
planning committee, a smaller committee, is a good idea. John and I have talked a little bit too about maybe having Peter Carlson kind of help us with the structure, because he's sort of familiar with what they're doing over at the commission. He's working for them. He works over here, and he sort of has done the strategic planning analysis for the whole IT piece here at the county. He might be able to help us sort of put the pieces in place that we need as well.
Well, I
So-
think what Dan said to me is that they had met and that Ann Reynolds, Paul is at a other meeting, and Ann Reynolds has a letter of what they proposed. And I'm trying to figure out why she's not here.
Who proposed?
Of what, I guess they talked,
Yeah, that was last week, and I wasn't there. I was in Boston at the time, so.
right, so, let me see if I can get,
You mean the letter of what the EDC is doing?
No,
not
this
with
is
this
some-
EDC, of what their recommendations are going forward and how they see this rolling out.
Why are you looking for that?
I'm looking for Patty, okay.
So we need a resource group, a planning group, a task force, somebody.
Well, yeah. It looks
Is
like
that what you're-
Yeah, they seem to have come to some consensus.
Here she comes.
Oh,
Hello. You came just at the right
They're both
time.
here.
We're
Dan
speechless.
has a meeting going on, so I know he can't stay long. I was just saying they were talking about they had met and came up with it,
Yeah.
So here you are.
Hi.
And you can come, Dan, you can pull up too if you wish to
Okay.
join in. And there's only a few things going on, huh?
Maybe one for
Yeah, we can
Bill.
give
if
it
you-
to Bill.
Yeah.
That's good. Put it in his
Thanks.
pocket. Okay, so we were just,
Well, it looks like you've already come up with some ideas.
we asked them last week to kind of put it
Right.
on paper, so.
Yeah, so I guess I could provide a little bit of context here. Obviously, that.
As you get started, could you identify yourselves for the
Yeah.
audience?
Both of you.
Sure, I'm Dan Gallagher. I'm the CEO of Open Cape Corporation. So-
Ann Reynolds, Cape Cod Commission, GIS Department Manager.
Thank you.
So, we obviously have been having a long conversation for the past several years about how do we create this regional services framework under which we can deliver regional services of all manner, and as they relate to information technology and applications across the region. And multiple parallel paths have been going forward. Open Cape is developing a regional municipal area network. There's an application in for a $500,000 grant for e-permitting and licensing. There's an EDC grant, RFP, that's out right now for conducting technology audits of all the towns. So there's, we're renovating the building at the top of the hill. So there's a large number of things that have been going on. And what we have been trying to do over the past few months is to move into a more structured, formal process of implementation, responsibility, accountability, and control. It's been, as much as can be done by committees and outside entities has been done, and the county, as you have voted in the past, and I think we're supported by the Special Commission on County Governance, this is a role for the county to do. So there's been a couple of meetings here where folks have come, Paul and Mark, and we've had some other meetings as well, to talk about how would you implement this. And Ann has drafted, along with all of us that were in these meetings, what might this look like as a thing. So from my perspective, it's critical that the county take this leadership in a formal fashion with a person responsible for implementation. If we get the things that, who's going to manage and examine the information that comes back from those technology audits and see the value and look at that. If we get the $500,000 e-permitting and licensing,
Which we
who,
did.
and there's an embargo on that. So if we get that grant, the $500,000, we will. Who's going to manage that? Who's going to ensure its effectiveness? All those things are important, and it needs to be a person responsible. Committees can't do this, and so that's where we came to. And at the last meeting, I was not here, I don't think, but You had asked the groups to get together. I participated in another meeting with them, and that would be Mark and his staff, folks from the commission, to put together on paper what would this look like. Now, Ann can talk to this more directly. There's an organization chart in here, it's called the Strategic Information Office, because it does more than just regional applications. It's going to analyze data. But there would be a director, and that's really where the start would begin. A lot of these functions below that line would be, over time, potential growth areas. And they're more functional descriptions than titles. But application operations, the implementation of e-permitting, of regional GIS, of regional assessor databases, the actual implementation of the system, the application, right? So you'd have that responsibility under this person. Application integration and analytical services, as you start to pull together all the different data that's available and integrate them with these many different applications now, and overlay GIS, geographic, three-dimensional views even. What does all this information mean to us? If we don't make it useful to us, what good is it? So those are the kinds of things that I see. And then there's administrative technology management. These things, again, can grow. They can be supported internally within the county in some instances for some of this. They can be outsourced in other instances. Maybe down the road there'll be a decision to perform these functions internally within this organization, but that's probably down the road, right? So that's the organization as it's described here in this. The other critical element is the steering committee that is a governance body of some sort to provide to that office the input, frankly, of the towns and the interested stakeholders who, frankly, not decided whether or not how the financial responsibility would be laid out in an enterprise account, for example. But this has to be worked out, and clearly it's an important part of this. One other thing I'll say, and then I'll let Ann take over, is I have a group right now that's meeting at 2 o'clock, part of the Smarter Cape process, the Smarter Cape governance. And we've done a lot of this discussion about this stuff. We're having more discussion today, but our focus is really on this governance thing. Is it one person from each town? Does the town then get to designate who their representative would be? How do you create subcommittees of technical expertise? Let's say you're going to implement an assessor database function regionally, right? You obviously need assessors involved in that. So how do you work out some of those mechanics of that governance part of this is really where I think we need the most help and input. And that group is made up of, I think there were maybe 20 people at the last meeting, with town managers and some selectmen and things like that, to help us. Now, we're not in Smarter Cape going to make this decision. Obviously, we're trying to develop some background and helpful information that can help in this kind of decision making as you go forward. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So whatever we produce from the Smarter Cape concept papers that we're writing, and again, we're focused now on governance, we'll provide that to you, and hopefully it will feed into this decision making as this grows and moves forward.
So Smarter Cape would have a seat at the table of the steering committee, maybe.
Potentially. It depends on how the financial model works. You may have just a town.
Right, because what it says here is a representative from each town, and then as it grows and you see how it's rolling out, it's being implemented, what are the other stakeholders that should be around that table?
But I'll give you a better example of that is just clams.
Right.
If the libraries are all using the regional services, and if they're paying,
Right.
shouldn't they have a seat at the table?
Yes.
But again, the financial model would have to be decided. Who's paying the bills? Are the towns paying the bills, or the county and the towns, and now their assessment from clams goes down, or does clams pay directly into the system? Therefore, they probably have a seat at the table, right?
Right.
To help with the decision making on implementation.
Right.
That's where that needs to go.
Those details will be worked out, and that will
Over
be
time.
sort of town level as well.
Yes.
Yep.
I will say that this is an abbreviated version of a larger document that we've been working on with Peter Carlson, Paul Nedzwicki, Dan Gallagher, and myself, and felt that the larger document maybe got into the weeds a little bit more in more detail than we needed to at this stage in the game. And the movement that the Cape Cod Commission has been building, working with IBM and developing this strategic information office as a concept has been in the process for the better part of 2-3 years. And it just, at times it's almost, I can't believe how the pieces are just falling together. It just makes it it has to make sense because all of these things are coming together beautifully. So I don't know if I can say any more except answer any questions that you have. I can, summarize what the document states, but you're better off reading it.
No, I think this is good.
Yeah.
Because I think this helps us understand where we are in the process. It's moving along.
Right.
I wasn't really clear how that was going. So this is very good. This explains it. And you mentioned the steering committee, which is important to get that group together pretty soon, because do you think, it would seem to me, if you think the same, that the steering committee could lead to a governance committee? Maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
It could, because if you had a governance committee, then you wouldn't need a steering committee, would
Yeah,
you?
no, and honestly, that's the vision, is that, again, until you have the director in here to handle the orchestration and organization of this, right? We're saying a steering committee, but it's envisioned as the governance committee,
Right.
that this person, now again, because this proposes that this be, for the time being, placed under the Cape Cod Commission, right?
Right.
So, but as you go through, and there's all sorts of things happening here. You have the special commission making recommendations to you. Who knows where it's going to go? So eventually, depending on how you move this, it could be that in a couple of years, now you've reorganized the county, let's say, or 3 years if that happens, or even if it doesn't happen, do you create an independent department called the Strategic Information? Now it's an independent department within the county, but in order to get it going, because a lot of the money requests have gone through the commission, their offices are clearly very involved in this, it makes sense to put it under there, at least to get it going.
Yes.
And then once you get to a couple of years down the road here, and there's much more clarity about where things are going, I mean, my sense is that it will be an independent department of some sort, right?
At that point in time,
Yeah.
when it's ready to go off on its own.
But it needs this kind of nurturing and help with direction and management to move it forward.
excuse me, in going, attending many meetings, and it just does seem like everything that has been discussed, thought about, worked on is gelling and coming together, and this is here's the baby, after all, the baby. So yeah, here it is. And what was said over at the collaborative today about another matter was, that's where I got the baby from. Now you have to feed it and take care of it and get its legs underneath it and let it walk. So, and I do look at this, it says here for maybe the first 3 years, it's under the direction and oversight, since the commission has been so closely aligned with this whole process and does have a vision of where this can go. But with the input of the towns and with the guidance of the town's needs, and then it does separate off. So it's not as though this is a new tool of the commissions. It's really, they're the people who really know how to get it, the roots in the ground.
And I think, a good example that's already established is, the concept of regional GIS. And, since I've been at the commission for 6 years, even, prior I was GIS manager at the Wilcoit Bay Reserve. So for the better part of 10 years, I've been in the GIS community here on the Cape and established a users group, a local, just Barnstable County GIS users group. It's expanded to include Dukes and Plymouth counties, and I've actually had requests for other counties to participate in this group. And that group has seen the value in data sharing, from back in the day when we were handing discs back and forth to one another, and definitely understand the advantage of having Open Cape at the top of the hill and being able to distribute information more effectively through this broadband effort. And with that kind of, that's the kind of feed and care and nurturing that allows people to see that this sort of cooperation is really making their jobs easier and making their abilities more broader, as opposed to taking anything away from them. And so that's why the regional GIS concept has really been welcomed with open arms. Same can be said for, the way the electronic permitting, licensing, and inspection has gone. That was a town effort that started in the town of Yarmouth and really rallied 14 towns to offer support for that project. And so clearly there's buy-in for these regional services. And so using those two success stories, even however e-permitting goes, the way it was handled was very successful. The towns were very receptive to it. And so why not use those two examples as a model for the steering committee? Having everybody together in a room and just talking about how can our lives be improved, how can business and government be smarter through cooperation, really.
I just want to say something because I think this is a good start, and there's some things here that make a lot of sense, especially GIS. And remember, I think this all started sort of when this was going to be the Strategic Information Office, where you were going to have a lot of data, and it has to manage that data. But we sort of, I think, want to be careful that we're not replicating services. We have an IT department, and there's no need to sort of create a second one. And so we want to make sure that we put what we need in the places that we already have, that we don't sort of replicate services. So,
I think that's true, but I think we have to let this evolve to the point where we see.
Well, I agree, but we don't want to start proceeding down a path where the evolution is set, I think is what I'm saying. So it seems to me, GIS I think is the perfect example, sort of the whole strategic information piece is a perfect example, and that makes sense under this particular structure. But other things may not. I mean, some of the, administrative / technology management, well, we already have an IT department, so there's no sense in recreating.
Yeah, and I would say, Mark, on that too, as I mentioned earlier, that these are functions where they house. So in this case, for example, let's say that because this organization is a shell for the regional applications and regional data sharing and analysis, right? It's a shell under which you perform that. It falls under the county shell in all of its forms, right? So in this case, let's say they need to issue an RFP at some point, right?
Right.
I'll guarantee you where they're going. They're going to a lane, right?
Exactly.
Technology, many of the needs can be addressed within the county's existing IT structure, right? Other needs may not be because they may be different or they're outside of what the talent pool is. You can either expand within the county, expand within this department, or outsource it. All of those will be options, but I think they're down the road.
Yeah.
But I see that as a function of administration and technology that includes all of those things to include the county.
Well, even with the director, Dan, I sort of see the director as the person not just who maybe in the past would be called the Strategic Information Officer, sort of the guy who keeps the data, knows where it all is. But also, he's the one who's going to be out there sort of saying, well, what applications? So he's working with the towns to sort of develop and then sell. It's kind of a salesman's position here.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are the applications that we're developing and we're going to offer to you. So I see it sort of in that role as well.
It definitely has that role.
Maybe bigger than just an SIO kind of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it includes all those things.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I gave this example to some folks before that over at the college when I worked there, for example. So we had the IT department maintain the servers and the network and all that stuff, right? But we also had a strategic planning office where they had a person who was, largely statisticians and SQL query experts and things like that, where they were doing analysis and manipulating data in order to make better decisions regarding the college's future. And this is somewhat similar, that this is doing that kind of exploitation of data and technology rather than implementation of a specific network component, which may again be within the county. I keep open the possibility in some of these cases that a town might be able to offer the service in some cases. So I think all those are on the table and open to what could happen. And the evolution will determine where that goes. I think.
It's that cooperative effort that we're talking about. It's like, we have to stop thinking of ourselves as individual fiefdoms. The commission is here and IT's over there. We're all part of the same family, as we are with all the towns. And so, great point by Mr. Gallagher that, there could be a town that has an extraordinary SQL, developer on staff, but they don't have any GIS. So,
Right.
I don't have any SQL developers, but I have GIS. So why not work together instead of everybody hiring a different guy for
Exactly
the
right.
same job?
Exactly right. And the way I look at this right now is just this is like the initial setup to, as I say, to establish it, to get it firm, to get it going in the right path so that we understand its capabilities. And during that time, the IT department is involved in that it's the support system, it's the guiding system, it's saying, yes, we're going forward with Open Cape, these are the capabilities.
Yeah.
And then, once it's ready to be, peeled off into either another department or however we choose to do it, whether I wouldn't want to see it as another RTA or another
No,
thing, but
no, I don't think so.
yeah, it shouldn't be. But it still will be having the input of all groups as opposed to being a county-driven. It's really a town-driven service.
I mean, a practical example of this is that, so Open Cape is committed to buy the first hardware for this, right? So we're renovating the building, as you can see, all sorts of work going up there. Some days there's 30 guys up there, 40 guys up there working now. They got the elevator shaft in and framing and all that stuff, right? So the building is developed. And John and Morrison have talked about, how do we get the network in there? We work with John Blaisdell to get the conduits in there. So there's all that cooperation going on. But so now the next point is we have committed to buying the first hardware, which we envision as a VMSAM. That's as broad as we're going to make it at this point. We just made a contract with IBM to design the data center, right? So we're going to start to be thinking more seriously now about what is that hardware infrastructure that's going to support these applications? What does it look like? And I'll be talking to John about that as well, so that he's participating in that kind of decision making so that we can get the best solution that will work here. They just implemented a VMSAN here in the county, so there's knowledge there that we want to make sure is engaged, that kind of thing. So I see that, that's where we're going to go. I mean, I'm going to talk to John and say, let's go talk to IBM, let's see what we do. What's the best, because I don't know what the right idea is at this point. We might do an RFI the first time around, see what happens, and see what people, to deal with these things. Do you see what I mean?
What's a VM?
I'm sorry.
Virtual machine.
Virtual machine.
See,
Thank
the way,
you.
The way I
Storage
look at
area
this
network,
too is we
SAN.
all have our own ideas about, because we all have a pretty good grasp of what this is all about.
Yep.
And we all have sort of a vision of where we think it's going to be and how it's going to work, but we're not there yet
Yep.
because we're building something. We know what the outcomes are, but as we move toward the outcomes, all the people we already have, the systems we already have, we're going to look at and see where will this fit in, where will that fit in. Then you build a structure as you go along. So you can't really. Our basic principles are we want to utilize all the resources we have right now, but within the county that includes the commission. But as we build it, we have to look to see whether or not where are the resources we have now going to fit into making this work. And then you make a judgment about that, and then you move on to the next. So I don't see where we rule out anybody or any department or
Right.
anything at this point. As we begin to build it and look at those resources, we pull them in to the process.
Right now, it's
It's
just
the
being
way I see
housed.
it.
It's being housed where people actually have been working with it, talking about it, incorporating it into their future plans and
Well,
how it can work. So
Yeah.
it's
a grant
it's a
money,
good way to
the
get
funding,
it
the planning has
established.
already been done. Through there and through the relationship with Smarter Cape Cod. I mean, that's how we got to this in a certain sense, was through Smarter Cape Cod. And the Strategic Information Office was sort of thought about a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we brought it up, but
And it was the place where the data would be stored. And one of the things we always talked about was all the information that the pond watchers have, all that data that they collect on water quality and all the different ponds around the Cape. And and it's always done maybe the same way, but the information is nowhere in one place. It's everywhere, and nobody really knows where it is. And this was IBM's thing in terms of water quality. We need to have a place where all the information on the water quality in the water bodies of Cape Cod, whether they're ponds, estuaries, rivers, whatever, all that will be in one place, and it will be available to anybody on the Cape to find that information. And that's how I always saw the Strategic Information Office as being house where all the data is, where anyone can have access to it. But where that's going to be as this process goes forward, we don't know yet.
And I think the critical thing is that the juncture that we're at right now, Mary Beth, is that committees, informal groups, Open Cape, who isn't going to run this thing by any means, have all done a lot of work, and we all have a general consensus of what we think needs to happen. Now, dedicated resource, a person working full time on making this happen, and working through all those issues about where does this go, how do you do this. We've reached the point of a pinnacle of what committees and informal groups and meetings can do. If we're going to make it happen, and there are so many other peripheral things happening at the same time, that you have to have someone focused on this full time.
Right.
And then you can work through all these other issues as you go down the road.
Well, I need to come to your 2 o'clock meeting because I'm on that committee.
Okay, so the other thing, so keep it going, I just wanted to say, for instance, today at the Water Collaborative, Water Protection Collaborative, the Cape Cod Commission gave a preview, and it's a sort of a demo draft preview of the of a regional plan, and I think we've seen the regional plan before. We have the overlay of density, population, watersheds, that sort of thing. That original one that was done about a year ago. And now they're sort of upping the ante, and I'm only saying this because I think that we have to give a lot of credit to Ann. I mean, there might be someone that's hashing out, the ideas, but like what can we do here and there? But it really is very impressive what your team has done. So congratulations on that. You've really done a fantastic job. I'm sure you're out there whipping. I hope you're not like Steve Jobs just doing that to you. I've been reading his books, so I hope you're nicer to them, but pushing them in the same way.
I think they love me.
I think they love me.
I think they love me. But the beautiful thing of this this tool, this application that we're creating to assist the regional wastewater management plan, is that it's taking this concept and putting it into practice before this concept has been blessed. And what we're doing is we're bringing together information from the towns, we're bringing information together from the state, from independent entities such as the Mass Estuaries Project. We're tying all that information together and providing, analytical services that allow the public to interact with this information in a simple, seamless fashion to help them make decisions on their own. And so it really, I think, when we're successful, I won't even say if, it's going to, it has the potential of being that light bulb for towns or citizens to really see the value in collecting and disseminating information from a central location, because once we get that information all together, we can plug in the water quality information once we have that, or even use it as a way to secure funding for developing water quality monitoring across the entire county, to pull that information in so it's collected in the same fashion.
Yeah, real time collection.
It's amazing the things that you can do, and what this tool is proving is that we can start small. We can start with what we have now and kind of prove the concept of what we can do while we're working together. So you're right, Sheila, it's very exciting and very relevant to this project.
It's very relevant, and it really does sort of illustrate what we're talking about as a regional approach, or regional options. Let's put it this way. Right now we're talking. We've directed Andy and Paul to go forward and to explore this, and this is going to be a very important tool for people to understand what it is that we've directed them to do. The word authority is clouding the issue because people think that something's been established, but it's really trying to look at the options that are regional. But what they have done is they've, and it's got to be a tremendous amount of work for all of you, because they've taken zoning bylaws, they've taken land use, and it's all of the bylaws of the town. Yeah, so you've seen the whole thing.
Wastewater workshop that they had in Falmouth. The people from EPA Ohio were there, and it was, I don't know if it was Nick Ashbolt or someone that Paul had given the model sort of at that point too, and then he put it up on a screen and showed everyone how you work through it, and it was amazing. So
it's for professionals all the way down to, so say the town is saying that this is what we're proposing. An individual can go online, plug in their town, and then use different, you can use oystering, the natural attenuations that are available, the marshes or dredging or any of these things, and to see by using that application where does it affect TMDLs, where does it affect the nitrogen load, and what is the cost.
Exactly.
And you can fit in the right thing to do you can fit in the right approach to that watershed or sub-watershed. It's an amazing thing. It's going to be really, I mean, you got to get copyright on this because it's really, it's going to be groundbreaking.
Okay, well, let's get back to our Russ here, because
yeah, we got to get to the meeting.
Yeah, we got to get to the meeting at 2. So I think we're where we need to be right now, and I think probably after this governance meeting today, it will give us another better opportunity to see our absolute next step, which is create a steering committee. Seems to me.
Well, I think that from what I gather is, I don't know if we have to do that. I think that we have to do is decide that it's going to be under the commission, and that's going to be, so this will come under Paul's purview. He will have to hire someone, and then that person is going to gather the governance committee and report to us on how they're going. Right. I don't think that's really, I'm not saying that is our job.
I meant the universal.
Yeah, the universal we. Okay, all right.
I should never use the universal we.
I think that's correct in the general direction that you're going. I mean, obviously, you could take a look at this, and Ann and folks are still working on a much more detailed, expansive document that relates to this, gives details, right? But, it's for you to make decisions on, and I think this will give you that background that you need to make the decisions.
Okay. Great.
And just, I'll just say that we're ready to hit the ground running with your approval. So, that's.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we can look at the details, or we can have Bill here if you want, or we didn't put a vote on here today.
So are you looking for a vote from us to move this forward?
Yeah, I think it would be.
I think we should do it next week. First of all, I haven't read it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It'd be
I
nice
think you
to
should take a
read
look
it
at this. That was the
and
idea.
have Bill read it, and then next week we'll have been to the 2:00 meeting, and then we'll have a much better idea, and we can put it on for next week. How's that?
Yep, and then you can make a
Put
decision.
it on for a vote.
I was under the impression that it was sent to you earlier. So, if as you're reading it, if you have any questions.
So it would have been nice to have had a vote today, so we put it
Well,
on as a vote. But
no, I
it's just
can't
a
say that,
continued
Sheila.
discussion.
I wouldn't know.
No, it did say discussion, so it wasn't really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have
It's the first
questions,
time I've seen this.
Yeah, I can't say that I saw
Unless
it.
it came by email, and I didn't see it by email.
Well, I think we tried to have a meeting. What was that? Last week? A couple weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago. Before
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, where the fuller document was present, and but either way,
Okay.
no
Perfect.
matter.
We're on track.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. We'll just get the holy water out
Right,
afterwards.
we're very committed to the process. So,
Right.
Super, yeah, because like I said, we've already had successes. So,
Yes. Well, don't let us stop you.
continuity of care is really,
We don't want to get in your way.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you so much. That's great. No, it's very exciting. And I have to tell you, everybody in the room, and there were more people in the room, a lot of selectmen, everybody was there. And they were saying, this is, and then there were people from EP, other agencies, and they said, this is so incredible. Of course, it just makes us want more.
of course, no one knows what we're talking about.
No,
now,
I know.
But I know what you're talking about. What? Yeah, we're off topic.
We're off topic, but
And so let's move on
it's
to
wonderful.
the space planning.
space
We
planning.
had talked
At
about.
the public meeting, I thought all the materials were available.
Could you take these side discussions
Yeah.
out, please?
I'm sorry, I
That's
don't know how
okay.
that goes.
Yes, we discussed about that we were going to go forward in a little bit more
Well, you had mentioned that.
organized
in the meeting
fashion.
a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago.
So
Yeah, and since we toured up there, the only thing that we've done is Beth has expressed an interest in maybe some space up there, and I said, it's okay with me. And first of all, I sort of wanted to know what the plan was for over there, and CLC or might have a use for that space. So I think Beth was going to talk to John Blaisdell about maybe figuring out where she wanted to do. But other than that, yeah, we haven't.
Well, you know, I was thinking,
anything
since we
forward.
have all that space over there, it might be a wise idea if we just put a group of people together, and I don't mean internally necessarily, but just because it is a public building, and to think about what could go there in terms of people that offices that are already here, but maybe space that we might be able to rent. I mean, it may be possible that we could get some rental income. I'm just throwing this out. I'm not saying to
Well,
do
the
it.
first one I would say is, since we pay rent with the commission, that's sort of the first natural. So
Right. Yeah.
I understand it may not be the perfect space and may not
Right.
work as well as you want.
But
So
the
that
other
might be
thing,
the first option.
if I could just
Okay,
finish
sorry.
my thought
Yeah,
here.
I'm sorry.
The reason I want to bring this up is because in the planning of the building, you need to know, have a much broader view of what you would really want to have up there. Instead of just people saying, I think I'd like to be there because I have more space, what would make sense to have there and what adjacencies are important? I mean, for instance, to have human services there with the health department. Not that I'm interested in combining them as the special
Right.
commission suggested, but it makes sense to have adjacencies where offices who work more closely with each other might be located in the same space. So it would be, to me, better to get a much broader perspective of how much space is there, what is the square footage. We think what departments that we have now would work better up there, what other places could work better up there, what might be left over, but to do a space planning operation rather than just saying, well, here's some space, we can put this group over
Well, you
there.
remember John did give you the
Yeah, he did.
over what's
The-
floor plans,
He
and so
did,
you have the
right.
floor
So we have
plans of
that
what's
idea.
available,
Yep.
you have the kind of square footage piece. And I would add, that Human Services was once under the health department.
Yes,
It's
we
not
do know.
new
Yeah.
under the sun.
I know,
A lot
I
of this stuff
know.
kind of just comes full circle,
Right.
you know what
It
I
does.
mean?
Well,
But-
you
But
know
there
how
are-
I look at, you know what I think we might be able to do, and it's fine about thinking about the public, but I think that to bring public people in,
Well, we don't need this debate now, but
No.
I know what you're saying, but you have to think about,
I am. So I'm not
The big wall of
debating
wax.
it. I'm just saying you from my
Yeah.
my point of view. We have departments that have shown interest. Let's get a firm commitment that they would be interested if the space was parsed out, and then talk to an architect and have them go in and say, you
is
have
what
this
we do,
department,
yeah.
you have the commission, you have this. So this is how we could arrange these spaces for them. And if they're open public spaces, they need to be looked at above ground first. Now, if there's storage space, if there's interview space for the courts, those types of things, the courts can express that interest. How would that look, and have that architect
you
come
put
in? But I
out a
think we
simple
have to.
RFQ. I don't mean an official RFQ, but like a letter requesting information to departments. Are you interested?
Well, I'm sort of in Sheila's court. It's sort of why we haven't gone into the broader sphere, is
Yeah.
because you want to make sure that your own needs are satisfied first.
And
if
I'm
you
on
have people
I'm
who
on your
want-
side on that
Yeah,
one.
I
I'm
understand.
just
Yeah.
Right.
raising all kinds of.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, in some ways, you're coming. There's different public buildings that have different uses, but this is a public building that really has departments that need
I
that
couldn't agree
priority.
more.
So
But it should be planned,
Right.
not just say,
And that's why I think-
not just have someone say, "I think I'd like to move up the hill,"
Right.
and then you go up and create
and
a
I'll
little
take cell.
space.
I'll take cell.
And then you end
old
up-
cell number 7.
Well, I will tell
but if
you
we
that sort of this whole, the wastewater issue, and the commission and the health department and their interworkings with Andrew and stuff, it sort of does make sense to put them all in the same place.
And if
Because
we
that's
had
going
an
to be a
architect
key
that
need.
could make use of that space to the best it can, because they really know how to work out those things
To
so that it's
consider
that we're
adjacencies.
maximizing.
Departments that work a lot with each other. If you had somebody on the third floor that always worked with somebody down on the first floor, they're running up and down 2
I
flights
agree.
of stairs.
I agree.
So it makes more sense to plan it.
And I do look. I mean, the thing that got me nervous is that John says, well, there's lawyers that want to put their storage in here, and here's this lovely above ground. Now it's not got a great view. I mean, it's not the front view, but it's
I asked them to
light.
move it. Yeah, I said, John,
and I said those
you just
types
wanna
of
pick a
things.
spot.
Yeah, those types of things should be downstairs
Yeah.
because if they're going to rent it, it's going to be a better rent, and it's what it's for, not an office space. So.
All right, so
Yeah,
So
so maybe
maybe
just
the
an
first step-
outline of a process
Yeah.
to make this happen.
Sure.
What's involved, which people have to be contacted to see if they're interested, and then at some point, I think you need a space planner or an architect or whatever.
Yeah.
But you need somebody who knows how to do space planning. That's for sure.
All right, well, we need to kind of run it by the department managers as sort of the
Right.
first.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay.
And certainly the commission and Paul is kind of number one, because that's the biggest sort of
Right.
piece that's not.
And they would need the one with the most ease of public access, because of all the people that go in and out.
And there's
Conferences and meetings and everything else.
And the other thing, not only does the Human Services work with the Health Department, they do work very closely with the housing section. And even now with the transportation, because they've got a joint grant on
Right.
smarter streets and that sort of thing. So they should have a discussion about that and see where they can best
Yeah.
suit
All
themselves.
right, yeah, we'll start pulling that.
And then the last thing we have
We're going to
is,
have a baptism.
okay. We want to name
I
the
saw John.
conference room in the old jail, so we just don't keep calling it the old jail.
The old jail. Yeah, I said to John, are we going to have the clergy come over and give it a buzz? I think we should have a name day. Let's have a name day. I like it. Okay, should we take a sample poll here?
Should it be one word or two words?
I don't know,
Harbor
what is it
View.
again?
Or turn it
Harbor
to
View, I think
how
that's
does everyone, what is the vote on this? The Harbor View Conference Room. This is the conference room up at the
Up
jailhouse.
there.
Yeah.
Rent it out
That
for
room you
functions
were
with that
talking
name.
about.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could rent it out for functions.
Yeah, wedding.
Well, we could. I mean, it is a nice room to have a small function. Yeah, and we'll give you a deal.
See, I always thought of it as one word, but I'm not opposed to it being
Harbor
two
View.
words.
I think it's two. It's two words,
I
isn't
don't
it?
know.
Harbor
It's two
View.
words, I think so.
Yeah,
It is two words?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have to think about a name for the old jail, but that's going to be a little more difficult.
The old
You
jail.
don't like people, so you don't want to do people-built names, right? You don't like the name building.
Well, I think
Oh.
you can't just name
Unless
buildings
it's
after
named
people.
after
You have
us.
to have a policy for that, and it's very it's complex, because you can't just outright go name building. I don't think you can.
I said to Mark, I said, so did you name the conference room after me, or is it Pat?
All right. Do you want to make a motion to name the conference room at the old jail, the Harbor View room?
I make a
View
motion
conference room.
that is a lovely room, and we should name it the Harbor View Conference Room.
And I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Done.
Okay, so I think we need to get.
Very good, thank you.
Can we have?
That will be our
name
lasting
day?
legacy.
Yeah, yeah. Can we put our initials, like
No,
just
I
put
need
the
to get
initials
one of
on the
those big
plaque
plaques,
underneath?
You know, those,
In case we don't
brass
make it.
Yeah, the
plaques.
brass
November.
plaque with named by.
Yeah.
Okay, summary of items. Is there anything that you had a question about?
I think I only went through half of them, so let me get to where
No,
I
I got
was.
through.
I can run through the narrative. Thank you.
No, I don't have any questions.
A motion?
I will make a motion to accept the summary of items.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Okay.
Do you have any reports? Maybe we should have any reports from any functions?
I do. Where the heck have I been? I feel like I've been to a lot of places. I'll tell you in a second. Where was I yesterday? Well, I went to the Water Collaborative today, and they did give a preliminary review of that. Oh, yesterday I went to that's where I was. I went to the Committee of Regional Cooperation. The Lower Cape Towns are still
Oh,
meeting.
yeah.
So they met in Provincetown Town Hall. And Dave Schrofer called me the morning before and said, can you be here? We have questions about the wastewater project, So I called Andy and I said, if you can make it, it would be great. So he did. So we went down, and it was, the Lower Cape selectmen, I seem to see more, and you see them more socially, and you have conversations offline about what is it you're doing, and this is what we really mean about when we're talking about a regional approach. It's not about pipes. It's about different options, and but how can you put all those options, looking at the whole picture and where they're going to work instead of doing piecemeal, and so thinking that you've sort of explained that to people several times in different conversations, when we were really there to to sort of define what our motion was, as charging them to look at what does an authority look like, what does that mean, or a regional approach. It's unfortunate the word authority is in that, because it has really screwed up.
It says entity.
It says
doesn't
entity.
say authority.
It says entity. But the special commission called it authority, and that was what hit the paper and ran. And so to explain that this is, so far, EPA, it's a town-by-town approach because we're regulated to do it a town-by-town approach. But if we were able to expand that, even though we have the Water Protection Collaborative bringing towns together, their plans only go as far as their border. So how can we, bring the towns together more closely to say, okay, what does it mean that you're sharing cost? Dennis is on this side, Harwich is on that side. They share this water body, but one can do the treatment, but the other one is going to benefit. So there's a working together here where we can share the cost of this. So once it was explained, and that we're looking at all forms of innovative IAs, alternative septic systems, septic Title V's where they exist, and how to keep those upgraded and managed, oystering, natural marshes that can take care of some of these things. When we said that in the end, right now 85% of all of the households are on septic. Only 3% of the Cape is sewered. In the end of this, 60% of the households will probably still be on septic, but there will be enough of the treatments, whether they are natural or traditional, in place and expanded upon, that will take care of the problem where the water bodies can start restoring themselves, and nature will start taking its course once again instead of being stifled. They looked at me and they said, is it me, or is this like the first time I've heard this? And maybe we're being able to describe it better, but there definitely is a disconnect from what we are saying, and I think it's probably because we don't have a PR department helping us with these, types of messaging, and what is being heard. Once they understood what that charge was, it was like, oh, well, you've got to get that out there. Then we were on WOMR with Ira Woods. He has a show called The Lowdown. So I had Larry Ballantyne, Andy Gottlieb, and myself, because Ira called me. And we went through this again. And again, it was pretty clear. And Ira was tough. I mean, he's a very good friend, but he was very tough because, as he says, I don't trust anybody, and I'm a selectman. But it was a very worthwhile exercise. So I do think that we have to really explain. So today at the Water Collaborative, they were talking about this approach of Andy and Paul are out there, but how can... I think it's going to be imperative that as this process goes forward, that the public, we charge the collaborative to discuss how is their input going to be and how is that public process going to be taking place. So I think there's going to be a subcommittee created that will, on a monthly basis, the steering committee will meet, and there'll be an update on the work that's being done by then. But not only are they going to be going town by town, and they're already getting on the schedules, and they've asked every town not to just give us the 5-minute nicety of us visiting, give us an hour when you have nothing else on the board, so that we can have a real in-depth discussion about what it is that's going on here. And then have forums. And, people are saying, well, the daytime isn't always good, the nighttime isn't always good, but I said, what really does work, and it's a lot to ask of people, weekends. We've had meetings, and I know you do, on certain subjects, whether they be energy, wastewater. You came to Wellfleet on a Saturday, or the Cape Light Compact a couple of years ago. I had a forum. Oh, it was more than 4 or 5 years ago, because I was I think I was on the Assembly of Delegates. But I organized a forum on energy down in Wellfleet. Over 150 people showed on a Saturday morning. It started to snow. It was supposed to be 2 hours, and it went to 4 hours because they wanted to know that much. There's that much interest, and there's that much clarity that people need. So this is going to be put down in a schedule as to how that public information is going to roll out and how the input can be put in, and it will be going on all the way up until the final product is ready at the end of the year. So everyone will know step by step what is happening with this, what are the ideas behind it. We need the public input because there's always good ideas from the public, and their understanding of the process is crucial, so that they can understand that this really is a bottom-up approach, as opposed to the approach is coming. We're developing the approach, but the input has to come from the bottom. So it was a very successful meeting, and I think that we're all in the right direction. And the collaborative will be putting forward their rollout, public input plan.
Well, just on a side note, the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Committee in Falmouth, they received the funding at town meeting a year ago to move forward with the wastewater plans, $277 million. And $500,000 of that was to be dedicated to innovative alternatives. So I want you to know that they have approved the installation of 63 composting toilets in the town. They're offering the opportunity to residents who want to have one, that they will be they will get something like $5,000 each to help them, put it in, and also there'll be certain monitoring that they have to agree to,
right,
and the disposal at whatever point they have to agree to. And then some of them are going to go in public places. Now, I don't know yet what those public places are, whether they're Old Silver Beach, where there's a
Bathhouse.
Yeah, bathhouse there. Or whether it's going to be at the public bathrooms in downtown on Main Street, or where. So they're going to test these 63 composting toilets as part of the nitrogen reduction. It'll be interesting to see how it works out.
Well, Wellfleet is putting in 2 in their bathhouses, composting with the foam.
Yeah, that's what
With
this
the foam,
is.
right?
With the foam.
And they are also going to be monitoring this. So that's on town hall meeting.
Yeah.
This meeting.
See, that's good.
And
So a lot of good things are
That's
happening.
right. And we have the oyster propagation thing going down there, and so now we're working with Coastal Studies and with the cooperative in getting the monitoring samples to see how well that is cleaning the water, because now that they've put a real density of oysters in there. Rick York up in Mashpee had positive results of about 5-6%. Let's see, when you really do a concentrated
lot
effort, if
going
we
on.
can up the ante on that. So.
Okay, a report, Mark?
I just have one thing to ask you to vote on. The Barnstable Village Business Association requested to use the county parking lot. They're doing 3 festivities actually this summer. Wednesday nights, June 20th, July 18th, and August 15th, from 6 to 9 p.m. They're going to have music. They're going to have festivities out here.
Oh, that's great.
Like they have in the past.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Since we're opening up that to the public after hours, and even maybe then some once we get a plan up there, so are they asking permission for the music and that sort of thing, or is this
Just
like
to
beyond the
use-
parking?
Just to use the parking lot. And
Oh, just to
so
use
they
the
set
parking
up.
lot.
They have to give us a certificate of insurance
Oh, okay.
when they cover it. This is similar.
So it's
to,
more than parking. That's when they ask
Yeah,
our
no, they
permission,
want to
when it's
use
more
it
than.
as a
as a
festivity.
festivity.
They're gonna,
Yep, okay, so-
stuff out here.
All right.
Yeah, and they've done it before. They've done
Yeah.
it on the front lawn. They've done a couple different things. So, if you would approve their use for those dates, June 20th, July 18th, and August 15th.
I make a motion to approve.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Thank you.
Unanimous.
And you have to read resignation letter from Tom Ryan as the administrator to the Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
So I think,
Beth is aware. She was going to talk to
so
John
I think it'd be
Reed,
nice if we wrote a letter acknowledging
working.
his,
work that out.
Yes, thanking him
Services to
for
the
his
county.
service. Can we do that, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
the other thing that we've been asked to do is to come up with a proclamation for Paul Hush.
Oh, yes, we would like
Because
to
he's
have
receiving
a,
the Kmark Award.
Yeah.
So
I
I-
know Kara had asked if you had any.
we need to get
Yeah,
some
well, I
information.
thought maybe you
I'll
and
get it.
I, yeah, can you get some information?
Yeah, I'll ask, I'll get his, you know, it's just a
Steve
certain
Leibowitz?
amount of, yeah,
Or
Steve,
maybe-
we can get.
No, Steve is the one who asked for the proclamation. Oh, Bob Isidore.
I'll get Bob Isidore to give us sort of a, you know, bullets of his life that we can incorporate
That would
on
be
his
good, and we should,
achievements.
that's on March
31st.
31st.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
should vote it the week before that, which is next week.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on as a vote, but I will get you the information
It'll be in the
before
needs
it.
action, yeah.
Yeah,
However, yeah, because he's done a lot, it's not just democratic activity, he's really done a lot as far as community and bringing community together on different issues. So it's a well-deserved reward.
yes, definitely. So if there's no other business,
I have no other business
Motion
at
to-
this moment.
motion to adjourn?
Okay. At 2.
Motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?